in Japan, the rural areas population is declining, but Tokyo, the
Yeah,
population
Tokyo's
is still
big. Yeah,
going
it
up.
makes sense. Okay, yeah.
And the big thing behind this is their zoning and building laws. They have a way different approach to like how housing is allowed to be built and a different culture of expectations around how you judge or value the homes next to you. So they were starting to go through a similar like cost of living crisis in the 60s as they were developing, and they put into place a new zoning law at that time that like in America, there's for zoning laws, we have like hundreds of different types of zones and like weight and different rules to move around within. But Tokyo only has 12 different types of zones that properties can be. And in like 10 of those 12, housing is allowed to be built in all of them. So it means that if it's zoned for like retail, if it's zoned for something else, you can still build housing in that area alongside it. And that's created like an industry and a supply of housing that is always outpacing
building more
actual
supply.
households.
Yeah, I saw a graph that was like, it showed New York and then it layered over it what buildings that are there now wouldn't be allowed to be built under current zoning laws. And it was 40%. So 40% of New York that exists right now wouldn't be allowed to be built today.
This was really shocking
The
to me.
way it's been zoned. You can only build high scale luxury apartments. You can only build like the highest end stuff. You can't build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was really surprising because to me, in an American context, right? New York is pretty dense. There is a lot of like apartment style housing there that doesn't exist in like a lot of other cities. But even a place like New York has really strict
That's like the
zoning
best
laws.
of the American one.
And,
Right.
and basically, those
Yeah.
zones have like reached their capacity. And then, okay, well, you might think, let's vote to change the zoning laws. Let's change these things in order to get more housing built. And this is also something that was really interesting to me because in America, right, we vote for these things at the local level. And that's where kind of like the idea of NIMBYism comes in. Like, not in my backyard, basically. If I own property in a place, in order to maintain the growth of the value of the property that I already own, I'm going to vote against new housing initiatives in my area, maybe under the guise of like keeping the culture of the neighborhood or something, right? And so housing initiatives are consistently struck down. But in Japan, those zoning laws are just set at the national level. They just decide.
That's interesting.
So people in neighborhoods don't have the same input
control over
or
like,
control
who gets to build in there. That's super interesting.
And the result also, like for one more example of this, is in America, oftentimes there will be rules about the standardization of like how a house is built in a new development. So there's reasons why why groups of homes like have to match up with each other or have similar designs or require similar like lawn care or something like that. Might be through your HOA, it might be like a city ordinance. But in Japan, there's no culture of that. There's no like rules on how you can build
whatever
your apartment or home
Right.
next to the home next to you. It doesn't have like there's no worry about the design of your home devaluing the design of the property next to yours. Which is also, this goes in tandem with one last interesting piece that plays into this, is there is a strong culture of breaking down homes and rebuilding when you buy.
Yeah.
So moving into somebody's home that was already owned and lived in is like weirdly not cool in Japan. And it's way more common to get the home, break it down, and then build a new home there for yourself.
I saw a number for this that's crazy. In 2013, guess the number, of all home purchases in Japan, how many of them are purchasing somebody's pre-built home, right? Versus you get a brand new one.
Wait, pre-built versus brand new?
As in, you buy a used home that, like in America, right? You
And
go,
move
you buy
into
it.
it.
For the
Yeah,
most
yeah,
part,
yeah.
people
Which most
buy
people do.
homes, right? You go, like the vast majority of the time, it's a house that's built and so it's for sale, and now you buy that house and you live in that house, right?
I would say 75% are pre-built.
Only 15% of all house purchases in Japan were of existing houses. The rest, they create new homes.
That's so
85% of
That's
people when they buy a home
crazy.
are making a new home there. They either destroy the old one or they just get a new one built and do that. And even the one guy I know in Japan who is he's making a home. Like he's building it from scratch. He bought the plot. And that's just crazy because like the vast majority in Europe, United States, whatever, like homes are meant to be this appreciating asset forever. And in Japan, it's like this temporary thing that is not meant to appreciate.
I didn't know that until I looked into this. Like the common practice of like breaking those things down. I think there's also a part of this where the homes and the land that they're built on are actually owned separately.
Yeah.
So it is most common. Like if I were a homeowner in Japan, most homeowners in Japan, if you own an actual like home and not an apartment, own the land the home is built on. That is like the most common situation. But technically those things are disconnected. So you might lease the land itself, own the home that's built on it, and pay like a rental fee to the landowner. Which is something that happens. So I think
what if I own a home on a land that I'm leasing, then someone else buys the land from underneath me and says, I don't want you to have a home here anymore, and then
they destroy
No,
it.
they can't. Okay, so I don't think they can. You're saying if the landowner,
like you're going to have a house,
yes,
and I'm going to want to hurt you, so I'm going to buy the land underneath your home and then tell you to kick rocks.
Yeah, it's called freehold versus leasehold. So leasehold is you own the building, but you rent the land.
Yeah.
And freehold is you buy both. And so there's situations where you buy the property, the home on the land, but you don't own the land. And if that lease, but you usually get the lease for like decades. But if the lease ends and after 30 years of living there in this house, they don't want to renew the lease with you, you then have to leave and they can destroy the home, which is usually what happens. Because again, it sounds like they are just constantly taking down buildings and rebuilding them.
And I think this part of this like culture of like rebuilding and building in general is a huge part of like why supply has like managed to be so bountiful in a place like this, and like why they're not dealing with the same housing crisis.
Yeah, it's
like
tough.
They have other economic crises in Japan that are oncoming, right? But in comparison to like if you looked at a city like Sydney or Vancouver or New York, it's way different, and you'd expect Tokyo to be in a similar position to those places.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the best example I saw in a country not necessarily going through the exact same demographic crisis, which Japan is. So it's hard to disentangle them because their population is shrinking every year. So it's like houses are going to get cheaper regardless. But in like Austin, America, they changed the zoning laws to build more, and rents have been dropping dramatically. It's like down 22%.
Yeah, Austin is like the success story in the United States right now. If you build a lot of housing, even while the city population has been skyrocketing over the past 5 years, housing prices go down. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to let people build stuff. That's why I'm very pro build stuff. Just build more houses.
Yeah.
Doug will build your house if you want one.
Look, I feel like I'm just dropping these random facts about Japan I learned, and I'm going to drop one more. So I guess that is supposedly part of the thinking, but between why Japan has this culture of like just destroying houses and rebuilding them is because it was the post-war era. A ton of Japan was destroyed, right? So what they needed was a ton of prefabricated housing that wasn't meant to last forever. It was just get housing up. But then that created this culture and this system where you have all of this industry that's built around homes that aren't meant to last 100 years like ours are, but they're just meant to be there for 20, 30 years. You just have a place to live, but then after 30 years, the whole thing is brought down. And so that consists. So the value of the home and the land are separate, right? And so if you buy a home and land together in Japan, the home is meant to go to zero value over 30 years. It is like a car.
It's a depreciating
It is a depreciating asset. The home you buy is just like a car, and it is going to zero over time. Or if not zero, like $10,000 in the country, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a totally different mindset than what we have, which is like, homes go up in value. It's an investment. In Japan, they're like, no, that's my old shitty car that's 30 years old. Why would some foreigner want to come into the country and buy it? Like, what are you doing? Go build a new home.